Are you thinking about purchasing a short-term rental property in Music City? Well, buckle up because we're about to take a wild ride through the pros and cons of owning a short-term rental in Nashville, Tennessee. 5 pros, 5 cons. The 5th con is gonna save you thousands of dollars, so make sure you watch to the very end, and we're gonna get started right now. If this is the first time to my channel and you wanna know everything there is to know about eating, drinking, working, playing, the good, the bad, the pretty, the ugly of living in Nashville, Tennessee, then hit the subscribe button, hit that bell so you are notified every time we put out new content so you can stay ahead of what's happening in the Nashville market. I'm Scott Hardesty, and as a real estate consultant, my team and I get phone calls, texts, emails every single day from people just like you moving to Nashville or investing in Nashville, and we absolutely love it. So whether you're moving tomorrow, next year, or just looking for an investment property here, be sure to reach out, give us a call, shoot us a text. Better yet, schedule a Zoom call with me so I can see your face and walk you through the process of what we have going on here in Nashville, Tennessee. We would love to help you with that transition or with that investment. So let's get started. Today we're looking at short-term rental properties in Nashville, Tennessee. 5 pros, 5 cons. The first pro is that we have high demand in Nashville, Tennessee. The demand is insane. Did you know that we have over 14.4 million visitors a year coming to Nashville, Tennessee? Here's the even better part. The hotels, we have only 19,600 rooms in Nashville, Tennessee. So do the math yourself on that one, but we are way underdeveloped on the hotel side of things. Airbnb, VRBO is the way to accommodate the tourists who are coming here. So we have high demand here. Better yet, the hotels, the average daily rate is higher in Nashville than it is in New York City, Chicago, and San Francisco. So people are looking for alternative options when they come to Nashville. And who wouldn't want to rent out an entire home where they can use the kitchen and hang out together all night instead of having to go to their hotel rooms at night? So it's a great way to save money for people. It's a great way for people to all get together. The demand is insane here in Nashville. So know that if you're purchasing an investment here as a short-term rental, it's not like a beach property where you're gonna have several months where no one is gonna wanna book it. We have bachelorettes coming here all year round, and so it's a great place to know that the demand is going to be there for a long time. Okay, pro number 2, with high demand comes high occupancy rates. Like I said, bachelorette parties are coming to Nashville all year round, and I actually, in my Airbnb, I do a 3-night minimum. So my place is usually booked from Thursday to Sunday. I will say January, February are the slowest seasons that I see. We still get a few bookings in there, but there's creative things you can do. Like instead of doing a 3-night minimum, just do a 2-night minimum if you get closer to a weekend and it's not booked, or just change some pictures around, try to get some more traction on it. Obviously drop the price in January, February to try to get those bookings. But for the most part, March to December, we're booked almost every single weekend. And I will say in this point, it's important to look at certain areas of town and see what's happening in that area. A 2-bedroom, what's happening with a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom or a 4-bedroom, what's happening with these. A good website to go to is AirDNA. It costs money to purchase it, to get the information, but they break down what other Airbnbs, short-term rentals are making in a certain area based on bedrooms, based on location, those things. So you can really dive in and see what's happening, see how often something is occupied throughout the year. It's really good research. So if you're serious about spending the money to purchase in a short-term rental, I would highly recommend AirDNA. I'll put a link in the description below so you can click on that and go straight to their site and check it out. But I would highly recommend doing that so you can see what parts of town are good to go. My philosophy has always been I want to be in a 3-mile radius around Broadway, but honestly, I just made that up. I didn't really have any information for that. I have friends though who go much further out, get really good returns on the properties out there. Sometimes they'll add a hot tub or something cool like that some type of feature or amenity that people will want to experience. Pro number 3, tax benefits. Obviously, with any type of investment property, you get to depreciate the property, you can write things off on that property. With a short-term rental, you can write off the furniture, you can write off the repairs and the maintenance that you make. And something cool too is that if you don't live here, you can travel here, write off that trip because you have to check on your properties. You have a business here, so you get to write off some of that travel. I'm not a CPA, I'm not a tax expert, so obviously check with your tax advisor before you do any of that stuff. Do it the right way. Another thing too is the flexibility that you have with that property. So you can block off certain times of the year. January, February, I would highly recommend blocking those off if you're going to come here, since it's probably not get booked as much for the expensive prices. I probably wouldn't come in the high seasons of the summer. You just want to come and check on your property. But the tax benefits of owning an investment property like a short-term rental are very lucrative for people. Pro number 4, additional income. You get the money coming in. My first property was a duplex. This was in 2015. I had a duplex where the guy in the back was covering the mortgage. So I came in and furnished the front, spent a few $1,000s, put it on Airbnb, and it more than doubled what I was making on the long-term side. That's when I knew we had something here, and just, purchase more after that. But you can get more cash faster with short-term rentals in most situations. But Nashville is a good place where you can get more cash for your short-term rental and build up your financial dreams and reality faster. But short-term rental bring in that additional income faster and help you meet your financial goals faster. Pro number 5 of owning a short-term rental in Nashville: increased property value. In most homes, you're selling it just for the land, the value of that home and the land and the neighborhood around it. When you sell a short-term rental, you can also sell that book of business, the value of the income that comes in from that business with the property. So you can get a higher purchase price for that property because you're purchasing the home and the business attached to that home. So just know that when you want to keep good records, keep your books so you can share that portfolio with people when the time comes and show them your ROI, how much profit it's making throughout the year, because that will give you a higher price for the time, when the time comes to sell it. Okay, so those are 5 pros of owning a short-term rental in Nashville, but it's not all butterflies and rainbows. There are some cons of owning a short-term rental in Nashville, Tennessee. The first one, maintenance costs. It just costs more to maintain a short-term rental than it does a long-term rental, in my experience. I have a long-term rental, I have short-term rentals. Think about 10 people coming with their suitcases into your home every weekend. For me, I have one where all the bedrooms are on the second floor, suitcases going up those stairs, hitting all the walls. We have to paint that home several times. A couple times a year, we have to go in and do touch-up, and because we want to make it look fresh and clean for everyone who comes. So, with a long-term rental, you don't usually have to do that until the person moves out. Go in and do touch-up every couple of years. With short-term, there's just more damage to property, to the furniture. People can oftentimes be intoxicated when they get back from Broadway, so they're a little more destructive sometimes. So just know that obviously you get to write those things off, but there is just more maintenance costs that come with. Which brings me to con number 2. It's time consuming. Owning a short-term rental takes up a lot more time than a long-term rental. And if you're not gonna manage it yourself, it's gonna cost more. And we'll get into that in the next con, but it's time consuming. Think about this. You're on call, you or someone is on call for 24 hours when someone is there. It's like having a hotel. So for me, Thursday to Sunday, typically, we gotta keep it, I gotta keep an eye on my phone, make sure no one's calling me, or 2 a.m., someone's drunk and trying to get into the place and can't get in. So what do? They call you and can't, you have to help them get into your property. So you have to have someone who's communicating quickly and clearly so you can keep your 5-star reviews and be a super host, keep that status to get more bookings and all that stuff. So it all ties in together. But bottom line is, it just takes more time than a long-term rental, and that's something to keep in mind, especially if you're going to manage it yourself. Number 3, the con is that it's more expensive for property management. With a long-term rental, you can expect to pay somewhere between 8 and 10% because it doesn't take that much time to manage usually. So 8 to 10% for a long-term rental. On a short-term rental, if you're gonna hire a management company, it's gonna be more like 18 to 20%. And you wanna pay them, because if you do want this to be a passive thing for you, a passive investment, you want somebody who's gonna take care of it and who's not gonna be calling you in the middle of the night. Because again, I've had smoke detectors go off in the middle of the night, and I'm having to go over there at 2 a.m. to replace a battery because I didn't have somebody else doing it, and I didn't think to put a system in place of changing smoke detectors every 6 months. So more expensive. Again, it's still, to me, there's still more cash involved, so it's still worth it. But if you do have to have someone manage it, and if you don't live here, you're gonna have to have someone manage it within a 25-mile radius of that property, or at least put that person on paper to get the permit. Number 4, con, liability. So obviously you want your guests to be safe. You want to make sure that the area is well lit. I highly recommend getting Ring cameras on all exterior doors and an alarm system, one that's attached to the doors as well. So you could unlock or lock the doors if the guests forget to lock the doors before they leave, and on your phone in case they forget to set it when they leave the house. But there are people, unfortunately, who are looking to see how to find places that are short-term rentals and know that they can go and potentially make a quick buck by taking whatever's in there, whether the people are there or not, right? So just know that that's something that you want to prevent if at all possible. Okay, number 5, this is the one I'm telling you, it'll save you thousands of dollars if you don't already know this. Do your homework, because the number 5 con, rules and regulations that Nashville has put on short-term rentals. When I started Airbnb in 2015, I didn't even have to get a permit until later in that year, but I just threw my house up on Airbnb and there were Nashville didn't care at all. That quickly changed to there being an enormous amount of regulations. Nashville is not short-term rental friendly, I would say. A big part of that is because the hotel lobbyists just coming in, putting pressure on Nashville. That's part of it. The other part of it is neighbors just not wanting their neighbors, to be party houses or have Airbnbs beside them. So that's the other side of it. But the regulations are very strict. Do not mess around with the regulations. They will find you if you're not doing things properly. They will take your permit away. So let's go back to the permit. I didn't even have to get a permit in 2015. Later that year, we did $50 for the permit, and you had to renew that every year. If you forget to renew your permit, they'll ban your property for up to 3 years. They're gonna ban you if you don't follow the rules. That $50 permit is now over $300 a year. So just know they try to make it difficult for you. Also, if you think you're gonna purchase a residential property and just get a non-owner occupied permit, meaning you're living out of state and you're trying to get a permit for a residential home, you cannot do that anymore. So they won't even give you a permit for short-term rental if you're not living here. You can do an owner-occupied permit in a residential area, but there's some rules around that as well. I'll get to that in a second. But a non-owner occupied permit, here's how you can do it now. Developers are now building on commercially zoned properties. They're building these beautiful condos usually, and then they're selling them as short-term rentals. That's really the best way to do that now, is find a development that's being built specifically for Airbnb, get in on a property like that. If you need help with that, obviously I know the developments coming up, I can help you find those. But that's gonna be the easiest way to get a permit for a non-owner occupied. If you're not planning on moving here, that's what I would highly recommend. Another way to do that is so let's say for example, so I'm grandfathered in with my house that I have now. I wouldn't be able to get the same permit that I have now. If I sell that home, the next person cannot put it on that permit. It's not going to carry over. They will not be able to do Airbnb on that property, unfortunately. So, but if I would have known this for my own property, I could have put that property into an LLC before the law changed, and then I could sell that LLC to someone else and they could continue to do an Airbnb, because technically a transfer of ownership did not take place because the LLC still owns the property. So you can find residentially zoned properties that have a permit in that LLC. If it's inside an LLC, it could potentially be transferred. Now let's talk about if you are owner occupied permit. If you have a suite in your basement that you could rent out or something like that, know this before you purchase. If you are purchasing an HPR means horizontal property regime, which is very common in Nashville, and it's in some of my other videos. But if you tear down a single family home, you build the 2 tall skinnies, those are HPRs. And if you're going to Airbnb an HPR, you have to own both of them. So you have to live in one side and then you can Airbnb the other side. That's a big deal. Some people don't know that, and they think they're just gonna purchase anything and put it on Airbnb. And Nashville will quickly turn you down for that permit. So before you go spend the money to furnish a place, all that stuff, make sure that you know that you can get a permit for it. The other thing is, if you have an HOA, if the home is in an HOA and the HOA says we don't want any Airbnbs in our neighborhood, then Nashville could potentially not give you that permit. So you really need to do your homework. But there's just a lot of regulations. Another thing people don't know is that there is a set amount of people that you can have come to your home. Right now, it's number of bedrooms times 2 plus 4. So if you have 3 bedrooms times 2, that's 6 plus 4, 10. So you can only have a max of 10 people come to your Airbnb. And if you're advertising 12 or 14, you will get a nice little citation welcoming you to a court date, and you have to go explain yourself and pay your court fines and change the dates. I know that from experience. So they don't mess around with this stuff. The rules and regulation is the biggest factor, the biggest con to me. But again, I think it's still worth it. So if if that didn't scare you off, the 5 cons, then you're definitely in the right spot for Nashville being really good location for a short-term rental. I hope this helps. I hope I didn't scare you too much about it. Again, I still do Airbnb here in town. I love it. And if you have questions, if you want to know more about a specific property or an area, feel free to reach out. Again, I'd love to help you out. And I will see you next time on that Nashville Life.